Hi, welcome to another video. This is Mr. Chow from EnglishTuition.org. In today's video, since the PSLE Listening Comprehension is just around the corner, we will be doing the PSLE Paper 3, the Listening Comprehension walkthrough. So if you want to do better for this exam, just watch this video from the start to the end, and hopefully you will get through with some important tips, right? You'll pick up some important tips, and that can help you score better for your listening comprehension. So let's get started. Okay, so what is the exercise about? So this paper 3, and it has a total of 20 marks. For the overall weightage, it only has 10%, right? For the entire subject, 10% weightage for paper 3. The time allocated is roughly about 35 minutes. Each audio will be played twice, right? So all are MCQ questions. So since it's worth 20 marks, so do expect up to 20 questions. There will be a total of 7 audios, right? 7 audios, and each will be repeated twice. So there's no excuse for saying that, no, I missed out some details. The audio will be repeated if that's the case, all right? So the audio will be based on a variety of text types, such as interviews, conversations, stories, and so on, right? So there will be a good mix of the audio. Students are advised, right, to practice. If you have the past year papers, right, you can get a book from the bookstores. Okay, so out of the 20 questions, each of the questions has got 3 options. And options for the first 7 questions are image-based. In other words, the option 1, 2, 3, they are all images, right? They are all pictures. Okay, and the rest are text-based. Okay, let's start talking about the image options first. Always try to listen carefully to the objects or the people that are mentioned in the audio and try to track what are these objects, right? And who are these people? Okay, from the pictures, you can kind of tell, right, what the question is trying to ask you. Then you read the question carefully and try to identify the correct answer. All right, so you pick the most suitable answer. So for example, if only beverages are mentioned, then choose the image with drinks only, right? To confuse the students, so you may get 3 pictures, and the first picture has got a few beverages, second picture have got some beverages, plus some sandwiches and a cake, all right? And the third picture has got a cake and some chicken wings, but there are no beverages at all. So what is the correct answer? You will choose the first one, because only the first one have got drinks inside, all right? Special case, right? Usually there is one question with a map that is being presented, and there are several different rules. Okay, they are demarcated by, say, a solid line or dotted line. Right? Then there are 3 rules, right? And students have to identify which is the route that is being described in the audio. Okay, so that's what the question is asking. So do listen carefully to the objects mentioned for referencing purposes. All right. So for example, right, if you hear the playground, right, and the audio, they mention that so and so is going to go to the playground first, right? And you look at the map, where's the playground, right? And then maybe you go and write down a number, right? First, right? He's going to go there first. Okay, so look at the map carefully to make sure that you can identify all the different points of references. All right, then select the correct route. Okay, so usually that's not a problem if you listen carefully to the audio. Now the rest of the questions are largely similar. Okay, so for example, be mindful of questions that ask about where, who, what, etc. So these questions are asking you about details, so do listen carefully for the details and try to answer to the best of your ability, and you should not have a problem clearing the first 7 questions. All right. So if you're unsure, always wait for the audio to play a second time, right? So you have to, your attention and focus always have to be there, right? So you cannot afford to get distracted. So this is just a reminder, do not get distracted, all right? If you get distracted or you're not reading the question, you're not listening to the audio, right? And you're losing track, then you are going to do poorly, right? For the listening comprehension. And if possible, try to score full marks, right? For the first 7 image-based questions, right? Because the image-based are kind of like a bonus because there are no English words, right, inside the options. So you can choose the correct answer simply based on pictures. How good is that, right? Okay, with that said, let's move on to the text-based options. Now, the text-based options appear simple, but can be tricky and maybe even confusing at times, and I'll show you why. Here are some tips. Tip number 1, always listen to the first sentence of the audio carefully. If possible, jot it down somewhere very quickly in shorthand, okay, on the question paper, right? Because the first sentence gives the main idea of the audio, and that is useful for comprehension purposes, right? What is the audio about, right? Is it about a picnic? Is it about a fictitious story? Is it about an interview? The first sentence will tell you all that, right? Tip number 2, look out for negatives in the question, right? And well, most of my students don't have an issue with that, except when they just ignore the negative, right? So what's a negative, right? For instance, if the question contains not, be careful not to ignore that, right? Read the question carefully, okay? Tip 3, read the keywords of each question carefully, because the keywords sometimes test you on your vocabulary, right? For instance, the question asks the student, how can we tell the farmers are indifferent? Now, if you do not understand the meaning of the word indifferent, then you cannot answer the question, right? So this is a language paper, therefore you will get a few questions, okay, that test you on your vocab, all right? Tip number 4, do not confuse true or false questions, right? I always get students who read opposite, right? They read true as false and false as true, and therefore they choose the wrong answer. So do not be careless. Okay, tip 5, try to ace the main aim purpose questions if it comes out, right? This is a 1-mark question. Listen carefully for what the audio prompts the audience to do, right? If there's an event or there's an activity, what does it prompt the audience to do, all right? So it should not be too difficult, right, for that. Tip number 6, for story-based audio, pay attention to the story development, as in what is happening to the story, all right? Because questions may ask students about a character's emotions and possible reactions, etc. And these emotions are not being cited in the audio itself. Therefore, the student may have to make an inference as to, oh, because this happened to him, right? This character, and under these conditions, under this context, he is likely to be happy or angry or whatever, right? So, I repeat, you may not find the exact answer, right, in the audio, right? The students may need to infer, okay? So therefore, pay full attention to the story development, because if they do not, they will not be able to answer, and because they don't know what is happening in the story, all right? As simple as that. Tip number 7, okay, and this is very important. If you see superlatives in the question, do not ignore the superlatives, right? What are superlatives again? Okay, read the questions carefully to watch out for superlatives such as least or greatest, right? That's a superlative, all right? So often, students have to look out for contextual clues again to identify the correct answers, right? In other words, if the question asks, right, what is the greatest, say, I'm trying to think of something off the top of my head. What is the greatest story, right, that John has listened to, right? So for you to identify the correct answer, the audio may not tell you directly, right, the answer. You have to look for clues, okay? So if John says something to the tune of, that is, this story is the best story I've ever heard, right? And then that's very likely to be the answer because it's synonymous to greatest, right? So look out for the superlatives, okay, and then try to spot the correct answer, okay? Okay, tip number 8, and I think if you do not get it by now, you should. So this is just like a final reminder. Do not just read the options and try to identify the words in the audio. That approach is too simplistic and it does not work. You have to try and listen to the contextual clues, to the details, and really try and understand what is happening in the audio in order to do well in the LC comprehension exercise. So in other words, you do not go, okay, I see the word pink in the option, and if I hear the word pink in the audio, that is the correct answer. That is the wrong approach, right? Because that may not be what the question is asking you, all right? And it may be the wrong context, so you may end up choosing the wrong answer, all right? Always try to understand the question and listen carefully to the audio, okay? And try to understand the audio, all right? So instead, try to listen closely for details and understand the audio, right? That's just what I just said. Right? After all, it is just a comprehension exercise. You are supposed to hear the audio and understand what is happening, all right, just by hearing the audio. Okay, so with that said, we have come to the end of today's video, right? So the conclusion is to try to practice the different question types that I've just mentioned, the text type, the image types, the image options type of question, right? Based on the given tips, right? For my students, they have, I'll give them the practice and I'll give them some extra tips as well. So you can do all this work on your own. So as long as you're diligent, right? You keep practicing, you're not caught by surprise, right? By the LC exercise, then I think you should do well. So with that said, I wish you the best of luck for your upcoming listening comprehension exam. All right. So for those students who are interested in taking up English lessons seriously, you know where to find me, EnglishTuition.org, for more details about the fees, details, schedule, etc., etc. And I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.